A servant, a trial, a power that could destroy everything. Seren Vale stood before the Alpha's throne, her ribs still screaming from last night's beating, and spoke the words that would either kill her or set her free. I volunteer for the Luna trial. The hall fell silent. Then came the laughter, cruel, vicious, echoing off stone walls. Wolfless, broken, worthless. They had called her those names her entire life, but when Alpha Kalin Virex rose from his seat, eyes blazing with something between rage and terror, Seren knew she'd just changed everything. Stick around until the end to see how she burns it all down. Drop a like and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. The bucket was too heavy, and Serene's hands were bleeding again. She didn't look down at the red smears on the wooden handle, because looking made it worse, made her fingers shake, made the pain sharper. 3 flights of stairs. The Alpha's chambers were on the 3rd floor, and Cook had been explicit about what would happen if the water was cold by the time it reached the bathing room. You'll scrub the latrines for a month, the old woman had spat, her breath sour with cheap wine. And I'll make sure you do it with your bare hands. Seren's shoulders burned. The bucket sloshed, nearly spilling. She pressed her spine against the stone wall and took the stairs one at a time, her bare feet silent on the worn steps. Somewhere above she could hear voices, male, laughing, the kind of sounds that made her stomach knot. Warriors, pack members, people who had wolves, people who were real. She reached the 2nd landing and paused, gasping. Her lungs felt like they were full of glass. 19 years old, and already her body was giving out. Too many beatings. Too many nights sleeping on the kitchen floor. Too many days without food. Move, mutt. The shove came from behind, sudden and vicious. Seren stumbled forward, the bucket flying from her hands. Water exploded across the landing, soaking her threadbare dress, drenching the boots of the man who'd pushed her. Beta torn. Fucking useless, he snarled, raising his hand. Seren didn't flinch. She'd learned years ago that flinching made it worse. The slap cracked across her cheek, snapping her head to the side. Her vision blurred, blood filled her mouth. Clean this up, Torin said, stepping over the spilled water. And if I see you anywhere near the Alpha's chambers again, I'll break your legs. He disappeared up the stairs, still laughing. Seren stayed on her knees, watching the water spread across the stone. Her reflection stared back at her, pale skin, hollow cheeks, dark hair matted with grease because she only got to bathe once a week in the leftover water from the warriors' washing. Her eyes were gray, storm cloud gray. The only thing about her that had any color. The only thing that sometimes looked alive. She didn't cry. Crying was a waste of water, and the goddess knew she'd shed enough tears to fill an ocean. Instead, she pressed her palm flat against the wet stone and let the cold seep into her bones. This was her life. This was all her life would ever be. Unless. The thought came sharp and sudden, stabbing through her chest like a blade. Unless she did something so crazy, so impossible, that even the goddess herself would choke on it. The announcement came 3 days later during the evening meal. Seren wasn't allowed in the dining hall. Servants ate scraps in the kitchen after everyone else had finished. But she could hear Alpha Kalin's voice through the walls, deep, commanding, the kind of voice that made grown men kneel. The Luna trial will commence in 1 month. A roar went up from the pack. Fists slammed on tables. Voices rose in celebration. Seren stood at the kitchen sink, her hands submerged in greasy water, and listened. Any unmated she-wolf may volunteer, Kalin continued. The trial will test strength, cunning, and endurance. The victor will stand at my side as Luna of the Virex pack. Cook snorted from her place by the fire. Load of horse shit, she muttered, stirring a pot of stew that smelled like heaven. We all know he'll pick Mira Tessane, daughter of the former Luna, strong wolf, pretty face. Why bother with the trial at all? Tradition, one of the other servants said, a rail-thin girl named Pell. The Alpha has to offer the position, even if it's rigged. Everything's rigged, Cook said. She glanced at Seren. You, stop daydreaming and finish those dishes. And when you're done, there's a chamber pot that needs emptying. Seren nodded, keeping her eyes down. But her mind was racing. A trial, open to any she-wolf. She didn't have a wolf. She'd never shifted. Never felt the pull of the moon or the burn of transformation. The pack healer said she was broken, cursed, an aberration that should have been drowned at birth. But the announcement hadn't said anything about having to shift. It said strength, cunning, endurance, and Seren had plenty of the last one. You didn't survive 19 years as the pack's punching bag without endurance.
You're doing it again, Pell hissed, elbowing her in the ribs. That thinking face, stop it. Cook's watching. Seren scrubbed harder at a plate crusted with old food. Her hands were raw, her fingernails broken. But her heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. What if? What if she volunteered? What if she walked into that hall, looked Alpha Colin Virex in his cold blue eyes, and spoke the words that would either kill her or make her something more than a ghost? You're insane, she whispered to herself. Pell gave her a strange look but said nothing. That night, Seren couldn't sleep. She lay on her straw mat in the corner of the kitchen, listening to the other servants snore, and stared at the ceiling. Moonlight filtered through a crack in the shutters, painting silver lines across the stone. The Luna trial was a death sentence for someone like her. No wolf, no training, no allies. She'd be torn apart in the first challenge. But if she didn't do it, she'd die here anyway. Slowly. Piece by piece, until there was nothing left but bones and regret. She sat up, wrapping her arms around her knees. Her body ached. Everything always ached. The bruise on her ribs from where Torin had kicked her last week. The cut on her foot from a broken bottle someone had left on the floor. The constant gnawing hunger that never quite went away. Fuck it, she breathed. The decision settled over her like a stone dropping into deep water. She was going to volunteer. Bas. The next morning, Seren walked into the pack hall during breakfast. Silence fell like an axe. Every head turned. Warriors paused mid-bite. She-wolves stopped talking. Even the servants carrying platters of food froze in place, eyes wide with shock. Seren's legs trembled, but she kept walking. One step, then another. The hall stretched impossibly long, the Alpha's table a mile away at the far end. Cullen sat at the center, a massive figure with shoulders like a mountain and eyes that could gut you from across a room. To his right sat Beta Torin, smirking. To his left, Mira Tassan, golden-haired and perfect, her wolf already shimmering just beneath her skin. Serene stopped 10 feet from the table. I volunteer for the Luna trial. The words came out steady, stronger than she'd expected. For 3 heartbeats, no one moved. Then someone laughed. It started low, a single chuckle from the back of the hall, and spread like wildfire. Within seconds, the entire room was roaring with laughter. Warriors slapped the tables. She-wolves clutched their sides. Even some of the servants were grinning. "The mutt wants to be Luna," someone shouted. "Does she even know what a trial is?" "She'll die in the first hour." Seren stood there and took it. Let them laugh. Let them scream. She'd heard worse. "Enough." Kellen's voice cut through the chaos like a blade through flesh. The hall fell silent. He rose from his seat, and every instinct in Seren's body screamed at her to run. Alpha Cullen Virex was 6'5" of pure muscle and fury, his presence so overwhelming it felt like standing in front of an avalanche. His wolf prowled just beneath his skin. She could see it in the gold flecks in his blue eyes, the way his hands flexed like he was fighting the urge to shift. He walked toward her. Each step echoed. "You," he said, his voice low and deadly, "are wolfless." "Yes, you have no training." "No. No allies, no strength, no chance." Seren lifted her chin. "I'm still volunteering." Cullen stopped 3 feet away. This close, she could smell him, pine and smoke and something wild that made her stomach clench. His eyes raked over her, taking in her ragged dress, her bruised arms, the way she was trembling despite her best efforts. "Why?" The question was soft, almost curious. Seren met his gaze. "Because I'm already dead. This way, at least I get to choose how I die." Something flickered in his expression, too fast to read. Then it was gone, replaced by cold fury. "No," he said. Seren blinked. "What?" "I said no. I'm not allowing you to volunteer." The hall erupted again, but this time it was confusion, not laughter. Mira Tassani was frowning. Torin looked thrilled. The other she-wolves were whispering furiously. "You have to," Seren said, her voice rising. "The tradition says any unmated she-wolf—" "I am the alpha," Kellen snarled, and the sheer force of it drove her back a step. "I make the rules. And I'm not wasting time watching you get torn apart for entertainment. So you're afraid. The words left her mouth before she could stop them. The hall went deathly quiet.
Kalen's eyes flashed gold. His wolf surged forward, so close to the surface that Seren could feel the heat of it, the raw power pressing against her like a physical thing. What did you say? Seren's heart was trying to claw its way out of her chest, but she didn't back down. You're afraid, she repeated. Afraid that a wolfless servant might actually survive. Afraid of what that would mean. You don't know what you're talking about. Then let me compete. Prove me wrong. Kalen stared at her. For a moment, Seren thought he was going to kill her right there, in front of everyone. His hand twitched toward her throat. Then he smiled. It was the most terrifying thing she'd ever seen. Fine, he said softly. You want to die in the trial? I'll allow it, but when you're bleeding out in the dirt, don't expect mercy. He turned and walked back to his seat. The trial begins in 3 weeks, he announced to the hall. Seren Vale is permitted to compete. The pack erupted into chaos again, but Seren barely heard it. She'd done it. She'd actually fucking done it. Her legs gave out and she collapsed to her knees, gasping. No one came to help her. She hadn't expected them to. After a long moment, she pushed herself upright and walked out of the hall, her head high, ignoring the stares and the whispers and the laughter that followed her like a shadow. She'd just signed her own death warrant, but at least it was her choice. Like, the next 3 weeks were hell. Cook made her work double shifts. Torin and his warriors went out of their way to shove her, trip her, spit on her. The other servants stopped talking to her entirely, like she was already a corpse. Seren didn't care. Every night after the pack had gone to bed, she snuck out to the training grounds and practiced. She didn't know how to fight, but she knew how to move, how to dodge, how to endure pain. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs screamed. She climbed trees until her hands bled. She pushed her body past every limit, then pushed further. She had no wolf, but she had rage. And rage, she was learning, could burn just as hot. On the 10th night, someone found her. Seren was halfway up the obstacle wall, a 15-foot structure covered in jagged rocks, when a voice cut through the darkness. You're doing it wrong. She nearly fell. Clinging to the wall, she looked down. A man stood at the base, arms crossed, watching her with an expression somewhere between amusement and pity. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and eyes like melted amber. A stranger, not from the Virex pack. Who the hell are you? Seren demanded. Someone who's wondering why you're trying to climb that wall like a drunken squirrel. Fuck off, he laughed. Charming. No wonder Kylan's so fond of you. Seren dropped to the ground, landing hard enough to jar her bones. I said, who are you? The man tilted his head, studying her. My name is Kyle Dravenor, and you, Seren Vale, are about to die unless you let me help you. I don't need help. You don't have a wolf. I'm aware. The Luna trial isn't just physical. There are challenges designed to break your spirit, to force a shift. When you can't shift, they'll tear you apart. Seren wiped the sweat from her face. Then I'll have to be fast. Fast won't save you. Then what will? Kyle stepped closer. In the moonlight, his eyes seemed to glow. Knowing who you really are. A chill ran down her spine. What's that supposed to mean? It means, Kyle said quietly, that you're not wolfless. You're something else. Something older. And if you don't figure out what that is before the trial, Kalen will make sure you never leave that arena alive. Seren's pulse hammered. You're insane. Maybe, but I'm also the only one who's willing to train you. He extended his hand. 3 weeks isn't much time, but it's enough to keep you breathing. What do you say? She stared at his hand. Every instinct screamed at her not to trust him. He was a stranger, an outsider, and his words were impossible. She'd been tested 100 times. The healers had confirmed it. No wolf. But what if? Seren reached out and gripped his hand. Don't make me regret this, she said. Kyle grinned. No promises. Doug. The training was brutal. Kyle worked her harder than anyone ever had. He taught her to fight dirty. Eyes, throat, groin. He showed her how to use her size as an advantage, how to slip under a larger opponent's guard. He made her run until she vomited, then made her run further. You're not trying to win. he told her on the fifth night as she lay gasping in the dirt. You're trying to survive. There's a difference. Feels the same from here, Seren panted. Get up. She got up. He also asked questions. Endless questions about her past, her family, her childhood. Seren deflected most of them. There was nothing to tell. Orphan, servant, punching bag. That was the whole story. But one night, as they sat by a fire on the edge of the pack territory, Kael pushed harder. You never knew your parents? No? Not even their names? No. And no one in the pack ever mentioned them? Where you came from? Seren poked at the fire with a stick. Why would they? I'm nobody.
You're not nobody, Kael said, his voice sharp. Cullen wouldn't have reacted the way he did if you were nobody. She looked up. What do you mean? When you volunteered, I was watching from the back of the hall. Cullen didn't just look angry. He looked terrified. Seren's stomach twisted. You're imagining things. I'm not. And I think he knows something about you, something he's been hiding. Like what?
Kael hesitated. Then he said, Have you ever felt heat in your chest? Like fire building under your ribs? Seren froze. She had. Once. Years ago when she was 12. Beta Torin had cornered her in the stables and she'd screamed and something inside her had ignited. A flash of searing heat that sent Torin stumbling backward, cursing and clutching his hand like he'd been burned. He'd beaten her unconscious after that. She'd never told anyone.
I don't know what you're talking about, she lied. Kael watched her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, but when it happens again, and it will, don't fight it. Let it burn. Unpot.
The night before the trial, Seren couldn't eat. She sat in the kitchen, staring at a bowl of stew, while Pel and the other servants whispered about the competitors. Mira Tessene was the favorite, strong, fast, ruthless. The daughter of a former Luna and trained since birth. There were 5 other she-wolves competing, all of them seasoned warriors with powerful wolves. And then there was Seren. You should run, Pel whispered when the others weren't listening. Just disappear. They'll forget about you in a week. I'm not running. You're going to die. Probably. Pel grabbed her arm. Then why do it? Seren looked at her, really looked. Pel was 16, skinny as a rail, with scars on her wrists from the shackles they'd put on her when she tried to escape 2 years ago. Because if I don't, Seren said quietly, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I'd been brave enough to try. Pel's eyes filled with tears. I hope you make it. Me too. The trial began at dawn. The entire pack gathered in the arena, a massive stone circle in the center of the territory, surrounded by tiered seating. Seren stood with the other competitors, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Mira Tessene sneered at her. Surprised you showed up. Seren didn't respond. Alpha Colin stood at the center of the arena, flanked by his betas. He wore ceremonial armor, black leather and silver, his wolf prowling just beneath his skin. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire arena. The Luna trial will test your strength, your cunning, and your will to survive. There are 3 challenges. Only one of you will emerge victorious. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the competitors. The first challenge begins now. The ground beneath Seren's feet began to shake, and then the arena floor split open and something crawled out of the darkness below. Something with teeth. Bisit. Seren had 2 seconds to react before the creature lunged. She threw herself sideways, hitting the ground hard. Claws raked the air where her head had been. The crowd roared. She rolled, came up running, her breath tearing out of her lungs. The creature was massive, 8 feet tall, covered in matted fur and scales, with eyes like burning coals. A chimera. A nightmare pulled from the deep places beneath the earth. The other competitors had already shifted. Wolves exploded across the arena, Mira's golden beast, sleek and deadly, 2 others in shades of gray and brown. They moved like water, fast and coordinated. Seren had nothing. The chimera turned toward her, sensing weakness. Move! Kael's voice from somewhere in the crowd. Seren ran. The chimera followed, shaking the ground with every step. She could hear its breathing, hot and rancid, right behind her. Her legs screamed, her lungs burned. She wasn't going to make it. The chimera's claws caught her shoulder, tearing through fabric and skin.
Seren screamed, stumbling. Blood poured down her arm. The creature reared back, preparing to strike, and something inside her ignited. Heat exploded in her chest, so sudden and fierce it drove her to her knees. Her vision went white. She could feel it burning through her veins, racing toward her fingertips, building and building until fire erupted from her hands. Actual fire. Golden flames that lit up the entire arena. The chimera shrieked and recoiled. The crowd gasped. Seren stared at her hands, shaking as the flames danced across her skin without burning her. "What the fuck?" she breathed. And then Alpha Kalen was moving, crossing the arena in 3 massive strides. "Stop the trial," he roared. "Stop the trial." But it was too late. Seren's fire surged brighter, hotter, the flames growing until they formed a shape behind her. Massive, ancient, terrifying. The shape of a wolf. An ember wolf. Colin's face went white. "No, it's not possible. You were supposed to be dead." Seren looked up at him, her hands still burning. "What did you do to me?" she whispered. And then the arena exploded into chaos. Oxom Assis. Kalen grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the ground. "You shouldn't exist," he snarled, his wolf roaring to the surface. "I made sure of it. I killed your mother myself. I burned." The flames around Seren erupted, searing his hand. Kalen dropped her with a curse, stumbling back. The crowd was screaming now, pack members fleeing for the exits. The other competitors had shifted back to human form, staring in horror. Seren hit the ground, gasping. Her entire body was on fire, not painfully, but alive, every nerve singing with power she didn't understand. "You killed my mother?" she rasped. Kalen's eyes were wild. She was a threat. The Emberwolf bloodline was supposed to end with her. Why? "Because you're an abomination," he roared. "A weapon that could destroy everything. I won't let you—" "Alpha." The voice came from the edge of the arena. Kael Dravenor stood there, calm and steady, his amber eyes fixed on Kalen. "If you touch her again," Kael said quietly, "I'll rip your throat out." Kalen laughed, harsh and bitter. "You think you can stop me, Dravenor? You're not even part of this pack." "No," Kael agreed, "but I'm part of hers." He looked at Seren, and something passed between them. Understanding, alliance, trust. "The trial isn't over," Kael called out to the crowd. "And unless you want everyone here to know that you've been hiding the truth about Emberwolves for 20 years, Alpha, I suggest you let it continue." Kalen's jaw clenched. His wolf was still surging, desperate to attack. But Kyle was right. If the pack found out what he'd done, if they learned he'd slaughtered an entire bloodline to protect his own power, they'd turn on him. "Fine," Kalen bit out. "The trial continues. But when she fails, and she will, I'm banishing her, permanently." He turned and stalked out of the arena, his betas scrambling after him. The crowd slowly settled, murmuring and whispering. Seren stayed on her knees, staring at the flames still flickering around her hands. "What am I?" she whispered. Kael knelt beside her. "You're an ember wolf, the last of your kind, and you're about to burn this whole world down." The fire in her chest pulsed, and for the first time in her life, Seren smiled. The flames died, but the heat remained. Seren's hands trembled as the golden fire faded to embers, then to nothing, leaving only the phantom sensation of burning beneath her skin. The arena had emptied except for a handful of warriors standing guard at the exits, their faces pale and uncertain. The other competitors were gone. Fled. Smart. Kael was still kneeling beside her, his amber eyes scanning her face like he was searching for cracks. "Can you stand?" he asked. "I don't know." "Try." Seren pushed herself upright. Her legs shook but held. The wound on her shoulder had stopped bleeding, cauterized by her own fire. She touched it experimentally and hissed at the pain. "Don't," Kael said, catching her wrist. "It needs to heal properly. We'll get you to a healer." "No healer in this pack will touch me now." "Then we'll find one who will." "We?" Seren pulled her hand free. "You don't owe me anything, Dravenor. You've done enough." Kael stood, brushing dirt from his pants. "I haven't done nearly enough. And we both know Kalen isn't going to let this go." As if summoned by his name, the Alpha's voice echoed across the arena.
Clear the grounds, now! The remaining warriors scattered like rats. Within seconds, Seren and Kael were alone with Kaelin and his three betas, Torin, Marcus, and a silent brute named Raze who'd never spoken a word in Seren's presence but had broken her ribs twice. Kalin descended the stone steps slowly, deliberately, his wolf prowling just beneath the surface. The late morning sun cast harsh shadows across his face, making him look carved from granite. "You have 10 minutes to get off my territory," he said, his eyes locked on Seren. "After that, I hunt you as a rogue." "The trial isn't finished," Kael said. "The trial is over. She's disqualified." "On what grounds?" "Unauthorized use of ancient magic, disruption of a sacred ritual. Take your pick." Kaelin's jaw clenched. "She's dangerous, unstable. I won't have her near my pack." Seren found her voice. "You mean you won't risk anyone finding out what you did to my mother?" The temperature in the arena dropped 10 degrees. Torrin's hand went to the knife at his belt. Marcus shifted his weight, ready to move. Raze just stared, his dark eyes empty. Colin took another step closer. "Your mother was a threat to the natural order. Ember wolves were hunted to extinction for a reason." "What reason?" "Because they couldn't be controlled. Because their power made them think they were above the law of the pack, above the authority of alphas." His lips pulled back, showing teeth. "Your mother refused to submit. She challenged me. So I did what any alpha would do. I eliminated the threat. You murdered her." "I protected my pack." "Bullshit," Seren spat. "You were afraid she was stronger than you, afraid her bloodline would—" Cullen moved faster than thought, closing the distance between them and grabbing her by the jaw. His fingers dug into her skin, forcing her head back. "Choose your next words very carefully," he said softly, "because they might be your last." The fire sparked in Seren's chest, hot and immediate. "Let go." "Or what? You'll burn me again?" Cullen's thumb pressed against her throat. "You can barely control it. I can see it in your eyes. You're terrified of what you are." He was right. The power inside her felt like a living thing, coiled and waiting, and she had no idea how to wield it without destroying everything around her. But she'd be damned if she let him see that fear. "I'm terrified of what you'll do if I don't stop you," she said, her voice steady. "That's different." Cullen's eyes flashed gold. For a heartbeat, she thought he was going to snap her neck. Then Kael's hand landed on the alpha's shoulder. "Let her go, Virex." Cullen released Seren and spun, driving his fist into Kael's jaw. The crack echoed. Kael stumbled back but didn't go down, blood streaming from his split lip. "Stay out of this," Cullen snarled. Kael spat blood onto the arena floor. "Can't do that. She's not your responsibility." "She is now." "Why?" Kellen's voice rose to a roar. "Why the fuck do you care what happens to a wolfless servant?" "Because she's not wolfless," Kael shouted back. "And you know it. You've always known it. That's why you kept her here, kept her beaten down and powerless. You were waiting to see if the Ember Wolf would surface, and when it didn't, you got comfortable. Thought you'd won." Kellen's face went blank. Carefully blank. "You're insane." "Am I? Then explain why you didn't just kill her as a child. Why keep her alive at all?" The silence stretched like a wire pulled taut. Torin broke it. "Alpha, we should just execute her now. Quick and clean. No one would question it." "Everyone would question it," Kael said. "The trial is public record. She volunteered under ancient law. If you kill her now, the other packs will hear about it. They'll wonder why a wolfless servant scared you so badly you had to murder her in broad daylight." Kellen's hands curled into fists. "I'm not scared of her." "Then let her leave. Banish her. Problem solved." "She'll come back." "Maybe. Maybe not." "And if she does?" Kael smiled, sharp and humorless. "Then you deal with her the way alphas are supposed to, in fair combat. Not by slaughtering her in the dark like a coward." The word hung in the air. Coward. Torin lunged for Kael, but Cullen threw out an arm, stopping him. "Stand down," the alpha said quietly. "But I said stand down." Torin backed off, his face twisted with fury. Kalen turned to Seren. "You have until sunset to disappear. If I see you on my territory after that, I'll kill you myself. No trial, no witnesses. Just you and me and the dark." Seren's throat was tight. "I don't have anywhere to go." "Not my problem. You took everything from me, my family, my past. Even the chance to know what I am. Her voice cracked. And now you're throwing me out like garbage. You were always garbage, Cullen said flatly. I just let you survive longer than I should have. The words hit like a physical blow. Kael grabbed her arm before she could respond, already pulling her toward the arena exit. We're done here, he said. Seren let him lead her away, her vision blurring with tears she refused to shed. Behind them, Kaelin stood in the center of the arena, watching them go with an expression that might have been regret or relief. She couldn't tell which. They made it to the edge of pack territory before Seren's legs gave out. She collapsed against a tree, gasping, her whole body shaking. The adrenaline was draining away, leaving her hollow and cold. I can't do this, she whispered. Kael crouched in front of her. Yes, you can. I don't know how to survive out here. I've never left the pack grounds. I don't know how to hunt, how to fight, how to... You'll learn. From who? You. She laughed bitterly. You're not even from here. Why are you helping me? Kael was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Because I knew your mother. Seren's head snapped up. What? Elara Vale. That was her name. She was part of the Dravenor pack before she came here. He met her eyes. She was my sister. The world tilted. You're lying. I'm not. If you're my uncle, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you? Because I didn't know you existed until 3 weeks ago. I thought you died with her. Kael's jaw tightened. Cullen told everyone the Emberwolf line was extinct. I believed him. It wasn't until I heard rumors about a wolfless servant volunteering for the Luna trial that I started digging. And when I saw you in that hall, I knew. Knew what? That you had her eyes. Her fire. He touched her shoulder gently. You're all that's left of her, Seren. And I'll be damned if I let Kaelin finish what he started. Seren's chest ached. Family. She had family. Why did she come here, she asked. Why leave your pack? Cullen was her mate. The words landed like a bomb. He was... What? They were fated mates. The bond formed when she turned 18. She came here to be with him, to build a life. Kael's expression darkened. But Kaelin was already planning his rise to alpha, and an Emberwolf mate was a complication. Too powerful, too unpredictable. So he rejected the bond. You can't reject a fated bond. You can. It's rare. Painful as hell. But possible. Kael stood pacing. Elara was devastated. The rejection nearly killed her, but she survived, and then she got pregnant. Seren's stomach dropped. With me. With you. Cullen wanted her to terminate the pregnancy, said a child with Emberwolf blood was too dangerous, but Elara refused. She went into hiding, tried to protect you. For a while it worked. And then? Kael's hands clenched. And then Kaelin found her. I don't know the details. I just know that one night, the pack house burned. Elara died in the fire. Everyone assumed you died too. But I didn't. No. Somehow you survived. And Cullen kept you alive, but powerless. Beaten down so thoroughly you'd never be a threat. Seren closed her eyes. He should have just killed me. Maybe. But I think part of him couldn't. The mate bond might have been rejected, but it doesn't disappear completely. Some piece of him was still tied to Elara, and through her, to you. That doesn't make it better. No, Kael agreed. It makes it worse. They walked until nightfall, moving deeper into neutral territory. Kael seemed to know where he was going, leading her through dense forest and across rocky streams. Seren followed numbly, her mind spinning. Her mother, her mate bond, the fire that killed her. It was too much. When they finally stopped to make camp, Seren sank to the ground and stared at the sky. Stars were appearing, cold and distant. What now? She asked. Kael was building a fire. Now we figure out how to train your power. You can't control it yet. That makes you dangerous. Dangerous to who? Everyone, including yourself. He struck flint against steel, sparks catching on dry kindling. Emberwolf fire doesn't just burn flesh. It burns through magical bonds, pack ties, mate marks. Anything built on energy, you can destroy. That's why Kaelin was afraid. That's why everyone's afraid. Ember wolves were hunted because they could dismantle the entire pack hierarchy just by existing. The fire caught, flames licking upward. If you can't control it, you'll burn through every connection around you. You'll be alone forever. Seren laughed hollowly. I'm already alone. Not anymore. She looked at him. Kale's face was half lit by firelight, his amber eyes serious.
Why are you really doing this? She asked. And don't say it's because of my mother. There's something else. Kyle fed another stick to the fire. The Dravenor pack is dying. We've been in decline for years. Weak leadership, internal conflicts, loss of territory. We need something to rally around. Someone powerful enough to unite us. You think I can do that?
I think you're the only one who can. If we can train you, control your power, you could become the strongest alpha this region has seen in generations. Seren stared. I'm not an alpha. You could be. I don't want to be. What do you want? The question caught her off guard. What did she want? For 19 years, she'd wanted to survive, to make it through one more day without being beaten, starved, humiliated. She'd never thought beyond that.
I want to not be afraid, she said finally. I want to sleep without nightmares. I want to look at my reflection and see someone who matters. Then take it, Kael said. Take your power, your name, your future. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission. And if I burn everything down in the process, then we rebuild. He smiled grimly. Fire destroys, but it also purifies. Maybe this world needs to burn. A gate. 3 days passed. Kael trained her relentlessly, pushing her to summon the fire over and over until she could call it without anger, without fear. It was harder than anything she'd ever done. The power didn't respond to logic or willpower. It responded to emotion, raw, unfiltered emotion. Stop thinking, Kael barked on the 4th morning as Seren stood in a clearing with her hands outstretched, trembling with effort. Feel. I am feeling. I feel like an idiot. You're holding back. Let it out. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You've been holding back your whole life. Every time Torrin hit you, every time Cook starved you, every time Kalin looked at you like you were nothing. His voice dropped, sharp and cutting. You swallowed all that rage, buried it so deep you forgot it was there. But it's still burning. I can see it. Serene's hands shook harder. If I let it out, I won't be able to stop. Good. Don't stop. Burn until there's nothing left but ash. Kael, do it! Something inside her snapped. The fire erupted, golden and furious, pouring from her hands in a torrent. It consumed the air, turning the clearing into an inferno. Trees caught fire. The ground scorched black. Seren screamed, trying to pull it back, but it was too much, too strong, feeding on every ounce of pain she'd ever swallowed. Kael stood in the center of it, untouched, his eyes blazing. Now shape it, he commanded. Don't just release it. Control it. I can't. You can. Focus. Picture what you want it to do. Seren squeezed her eyes shut, her mind a whirlwind. The fire was alive, roaring through her veins, desperate to devour everything. But what if she could direct it, guide it? She opened her eyes and thrust her hands forward, imagining the flames forming a single focused stream. The fire obeyed. It condensed into a beam of pure heat that shot across the clearing and struck a boulder, shattering it into smoking fragments. Seren gasped, and the flames vanished, leaving her swaying on her feet. Kael caught her before she fell. There, he said, grinning. That's the start. I feel like I'm dying. You're not, but you will if you try that for too long. Emberwolf fire drains you. You need to learn your limits. Seren leaned against him, her legs like water. How do you know so much about this? I studied the old texts. After Alara died, I wanted to understand what she was, what she could have been. His expression darkened. And I wanted to know how to kill the bastard who took her from me. You mean Colin? I mean Colin. On the 7th night, everything changed. Seren was asleep in their makeshift camp when the howl cut through the darkness. She jolted awake, heart hammering. Kael was already on his feet, his wolf surging to the surface. What is it? Seren whispered. Trouble. A A second howl joined the first, then a third. Close, too close. Kale cursed. Cullen's hunters. He's coming for you. I thought I had until sunset.
That was a week ago. He probably assumed you'd run farther. Kyle grabbed her arm. We need to move, now. They ran. The forest was a black maze, branches whipping at Seren's face, roots trying to trip her. Behind them, the howls grew louder, closer, a symphony of predators closing in. I can't outrun them, Seren gasped. You don't have to, just keep moving. They burst into a ravine, steep walls rising on either side. A dead end. Kyle spun, his wolf fully visible now, eyes glowing gold. Stay behind me, he said. Kyle, do it! The first wolf appeared at the ravine's entrance, then another, then 5 more. And finally, Colin. He stalked forward in human form, flanked by Torin and Marcus. His eyes were locked on Seren. I gave you a chance to disappear, he said. You should have taken it. Seren stepped out from behind Kyle. I'm done running. Then you're done living. He shifted. The transformation was brutal and fast, bones cracking and reforming until a massive black wolf stood where the man had been, easily twice the size of a normal wolf, with eyes like blue ice. The other wolves spread out, forming a circle. Kale shifted too, his own wolf smaller but lean and scarred. He snarled a warning. Callan ignored him. His gaze was fixed on Seren, and there was something in those wolf eyes that made her blood freeze. Hunger. Last chance, Kellen's voice echoed in her mind. The alpha command sharp as a blade. Submit. Bare your throat. I'll make it quick. Seren's hands began to glow. Go to hell, she said. Kalen lunged. Kael met him midair, the two wolves colliding with a sound like thunder. They hit the ground rolling, teeth and claws tearing. Blood sprayed. The other wolves rushed Seren. She threw her hands up and fire exploded outward, a wall of golden flame that sent the attackers scattering. One wasn't fast enough. The fire caught his flank, and he went down howling, fur burning. Seren didn't wait. She turned and ran deeper into the ravine, the flames still flickering around her hands. 2 wolves gave chase. She could hear them behind her, their paws pounding the earth, their breathing hot and eager. The ravine narrowed, forcing her to squeeze through a gap between rocks. On the other side, the ground dropped away. A cliff. Seren skidded to a halt at the edge, pebbles tumbling into darkness below. The wolves emerged behind her, blocking the only escape route. One of them was Torin. She recognized his gray coat, the scar across his muzzle. He shifted, standing naked and grinning. Nowhere left to run, mutt. Seren's fire flared brighter. Then I guess we do this the hard way. Torin laughed. You really think you can fight me? I've been killing rogues since before you were born. I'm not a rogue. You're not anything. Just a broken little... Seren hurled fire at his face. Torin dodged, but barely, the flames singeing his hair. He shifted back to wolf form and lunged. Seren met him with a fist wrapped in fire, driving it into his jaw. Bone cracked. Torin yelped and fell back. The second wolf attacked from the side, jaws snapping for her throat. Seren twisted, bringing her forearm up to block. Teeth sank into her flesh and she screamed, the pain white-hot and blinding. But the fire responded. It poured down her arm and into the wolf's mouth, burning from the inside out. The creature released her and staggered away, whimpering, smoke rising from its muzzle. Torin recovered and came at her again, faster this time, claws extended. Seren tried to dodge, but her wounded arm was useless, hanging limp. Torin's claws raked across her chest, tearing through cloth and skin. She fell. Her back hit the ground hard, driving the air from her lungs. Torin loomed over her, his wolf form massive and snarling. Should have submitted when you had the chance, his voice growled in her mind. He opened his jaws, going for her throat. Seren's hand shot up, grabbing his muzzle. Fire erupted between them, so hot the air shimmered. Torin screamed a broken, inhuman sound and tried to pull away, but Seren held on, pouring everything she had into the flames. His fur caught fire. His skin blistered. He thrashed, desperate, but she didn't let go. Not until he stopped moving. When the fire finally died, Torin's body collapsed beside her, charred and smoking. Seren lay there gasping, her vision swimming. She'd killed him. actually killed him. The second wolf whimpered and fled back toward the ravine entrance. Seren pushed herself upright, her whole body screaming in protest. Blood soaked her dress. Her arm was a mangled mess. But she was alive. She staggered back toward the sounds of fighting. Kael and Kaelin were still locked in combat, circling each other in the ravine. Both were bleeding heavily, their fur matted with gore. Marcus and two other wolves lay dead nearby. Colin saw Seren emerge and his wolf went still. Then he shifted back to human form, standing naked and covered in blood. "Enough," he said, his voice hoarse. Kael shifted too, swaying on his feet. "It's over, Virex. Let her go." "I can't." Kaelin's eyes were wild, desperate. "You don't understand. If she lives, everything falls apart. The old laws, the pack structure, everything I've built." "Then let it fall," Seren said. Cullen's gaze snapped to her. "You have no idea what you're asking. The Emberwolf bloodline was destroyed for a reason. You're chaos incarnate. You'll burn through every bond, every alliance, until there's nothing left but ashes. Maybe that's what this world needs." "You sound like your mother." "Good." Kellen flinched. "She said the same thing, right before I—" He stopped, his throat working. "Right before you what?" Seren pressed. "Right before you killed her? Right before you set the fire?" "I didn't set the fire." The words hung in the air. Seren's blood ran cold. "What?" "I didn't set the fire," Cullen repeated, his voice breaking. "Elara did. She knew I was coming for her. Knew I'd take you, so she burned the house down with herself inside." He looked at Seren, and his eyes were full of something that might have been grief. "She chose to die rather than let me have you." The world tilted. "You're lying." "I'm not. The mate bond was still there, buried but real. When she died, I felt it, felt her burn." Cullen's hands clenched into fists, and I've been trying to bury that feeling ever since. Seren's chest felt like it was caving in. "If she died in the fire, how did I survive?" "I don't know. I searched the rubble, found nothing, assumed you'd burned too." He took a step toward her. "But you didn't. Somehow you made it out, and someone must have brought you back to the pack, left you at the gates like an orphan." "Who?" "I don't know." Cullen's control snapped. "I've been trying to figure it out for 19 years, because whoever saved you knew what you were, knew what you could become, and they hid you in plain sight, waiting for the Emberwolf to surface." Seren's mind raced. Someone had saved her. Someone had known. "It doesn't matter," she said finally. "What matters is what happens now." Cullen's expression hardened. "Now you leave, disappear, and never come back." "No." "No?" "I'm not running anymore. Not from you. Not from anyone." Seren's hands began to glow again, the fire responding to her resolve. "You want me gone? You'll have to kill me." Cullen's wolf surged forward, his eyes flashing gold. "Don't test me, Seren. I'm not testing you. I'm telling you, I'm done being afraid." For a long moment, they stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills. Then Kaelin did something that shocked them all. He knelt. "I can't kill you," he said quietly. "I've tried. In my mind, I've killed you 1,000 times, but every time I look at you, I see her. And I can't." His voice cracked. "The mate bond might be broken, but some part of me still feels it, still feels her, through you." Seren's fire flickered. "What are you saying?" Cullen looked up and his eyes were raw. "I'm saying the bond is reforming, not with Elara. With you." The words hit like a physical blow. "That's impossible." "Mate bonds don't follow logic. They follow blood. And you're her daughter, her legacy." He stood slowly. "I can feel it, Seren. The pull. It's been building since the moment you volunteered. I thought it was just fear, just anger, but it's not." "Stop. I rejected Elara because I was afraid of losing control. But I lost her anyway. I lost everything." He took another step closer. "I won't make that mistake again. Accept the bond. Become my mate. My Luna. Together we can—" "No." The word came out flat and final. Cullen froze. "What?" "I said no. I'm not my mother. I'm not going to be your second chance at redemption or whatever fucked up fantasy you've built in your head." Seren's hands blazed brighter. You killed her. Maybe not directly, but you drove her to it. And now you want me to just forget that? To let you claim me because of some twisted bond? It's not twisted. It's fate. Fate is bullshit. Seren's voice rose. And even if it wasn't, even if the bond is real, I don't want it. I don't want you. Cullen's face went white. You're refusing me. Yes. You can't. A mate bond can be rejected. You taught me that, remember? Seren smiled, cold and sharp. You rejected my mother. Now I'm rejecting you. The fire in her hands turned white hot. Seren, don't, Kael started, but it was too late. Seren reached deep inside herself, found the thread of the bond that was forming, thin and fragile but undeniably there, and wrapped her fire around it. The bond ignited. Kalen screamed. It was a sound of pure agony, ripping from his throat as the connection between them burned away. He collapsed to his knees, clutching his chest, his wolf howling in anguish. Seren felt it too, a searing pain that tore through her entire being, but she held on, feeding the fire until the bond was nothing but ash. When it was done, she stood there gasping, her whole body shaking. Kalin lay on the ground, curled in on himself, his breathing ragged. Kale stared at her in horror. What did you just do? I broke the bond, Seren said. Completely. Permanently. Do you have any idea, Chi? Kael grabbed her shoulders. Rejecting a forming bond is one thing. Burning it is another. You just violated one of the oldest laws in our world. I don't care. You should. Because every alpha, every pack, every wolf within 100 miles is going to feel what you just did. His eyes were wide. You just declared war on the natural order itself. Seren looked down at Kalen. The alpha was still breathing, but barely, his face ashen. Good, she said. Let them come. And as if in answer, a howl rose from somewhere far away. Then another, then a dozen more, spreading across the territory like wildfire. The packs had felt it, and they were coming. Kale pulled her toward the edge of the ravine. We need to run, now. But Seren didn't move. She stood there, her hands still glowing with embers, and stared at the sky. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear the thunder of approaching wolves. An army, coming for her. And all she could think was, let them burn. Kale's voice was urgent, desperate. Seren, we can't fight them all. There are too many. We need to... I'm not running, she said again. Then you're choosing death. Maybe. Or maybe... The ground beneath them began to shake. Not from the approaching wolves, from something deeper, something ancient, stirring in the earth below. Seren's fire flared brighter, responding to the tremor. And in the back of her mind, she heard a voice. Low, feminine, familiar. Welcome home, daughter. Seren's eyes widened. Mom? But before she could process the impossibility of it, the earth split open beneath her feet, and she was falling into... Darkness swallowed her whole. Seren hit the ground hard, the impact driving every molecule of air from her lungs. Pain exploded through her spine, her ribs, her skull. For a moment she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only lie there in the absolute black and wonder if this was what death felt like. Then the fire in her chest ignited, flooding her veins with heat, and she gasped back to life. She pushed herself upright, her hands scraping against smooth stone. The darkness was so complete it felt solid, pressing against her eyes like a physical weight. She conjured flame, just a flicker at first, then brighter, and the shadows retreated. She was in a cave. No, not a cave. A chamber. Carved from bedrock, the walls covered in symbols she'd never seen before, glowing faintly with their own internal light. The air smelled ancient, dust and copper and something else. Something that made her wolf, no, her ember wolf, stir restlessly beneath her skin. Hello? Her voice echoed, bouncing off invisible walls. No response. She stood on shaking legs and turned in a slow circle. The chamber was circular, maybe 30 feet across, with a single passageway leading deeper into the earth. The symbols on the walls pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, and at the center of the room, a stone altar. On it, a skeleton. Seren's breath caught. The bones were small, female, arranged carefully, reverently, with hands folded across the chest. Around the skull, a crown of blackened metal twisted into shapes that hurt to look at. She knew, even before she stepped closer, whose bones these were. Mom. The word came out broken. The voice that had called to her, "Welcome home, daughter." It hadn't been real, couldn't have been real. Her mother was dead, had been dead for 19 years, but the bones didn't lie. Seren reached out with trembling fingers, brushing the edge of the metal crown. The moment her skin made contact, the world exploded into light. Mwah. She was 4 years old, hiding under a table while the house shook with screaming. "You're insane if you think I'll let you do this!" A woman's voice, her mother's voice, younger and fiercer than Seren had ever imagined. "It's already done, Ilara." A man's voice, not Colleen, someone else, deeper, colder. "You had no right." "I had every right. She's mine as much as yours." "She's a child." "She's a weapon, and weapons need to be forged." The vision shifted. Now she was older, 7, maybe 8, standing in a room filled with candles, her small hands bound with rope, while someone drew symbols on her skin in blood. "This will hurt," the cold voice said, "but it's necessary. The Ember Wolf must sleep. If it wakes too soon, it will consume you." Her mother was there, weeping, held back by invisible chains. "Please, don't do this to her. She's just a baby." She stopped being a baby the moment she was conceived. The man stepped into view, tall, silver-haired, eyes like winter frost. "Now be silent, or I'll make you watch every second of what comes next." The vision shifted again. Fire. Everywhere. The house engulfed in flames, beams crashing down, smoke choking the air. Her mother clutching her, running through the inferno, her dress burning, her skin blistering. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Seren. I should have protected you, should have fought harder." She stumbled. They both fell. The flames rushed closer, and then the silver-haired man was there, stepping through the fire like it was nothing, his expression calm. "Give her to me, Ilara." "No." "You're dying. The burns are too severe. If you don't shift and heal, you'll be dead in minutes." "I can't shift. You bound my wolf. You took a necessary precaution. You were too unstable." He crouched beside them. "Give me the child. I'll keep her safe." "You'll make her into a monster. I'll make her into a survivor." His hand closed around Seren's tiny wrist, "which is more than you can offer her right now." Ilara's grip tightened. "If you hurt her, I won't. But you need to let go. The fire's spreading. If you stay here, you both die." For a long moment, nothing. Just the roar of flames and her mother's ragged breathing. Then Ilara's fingers loosened. "I love you," she whispered to Seren. "I love you so much. Never forget that. Never." The man pulled Seren away. The last thing she saw was her mother's face, streaked with ash and tears, before the ceiling collapsed and buried her in fire. Seren snapped back to the present, gasping. The altar, the bones, the crown. She staggered backward, her mind reeling. That man! The silver-haired man who'd pulled her from the fire, who'd drawn symbols on her skin, who'd called her a weapon. Who was he? His name was Corvus Dravenor. Seren spun. Kale stood at the entrance to the chamber, his face grim. "You," she breathed. "You knew." "Not all of it, not until now." Kale stepped forward, his eyes on the skeleton. "But I knew enough. Knew Corvus was obsessed with the Ember Wolf bloodline. Knew he'd do anything to get his hands on one." "He's your family?" "My grandfather, dead now, killed in a border skirmish 5 years ago." Kale's jaw tightened. "Or so I was told. Looking at this chamber, I'm not so sure." Seren's hands clenched into fists. "He did something to me. Bound my wolf. Turned it into something else. He experimented on you, used old magic, forbidden techniques, to suppress the Ember Wolf and make it dormant." Kale gestured to the symbols on the walls. "This chamber is a containment spell, designed to hold your power until it was ready to be unleashed." "Ready for what?" "For war." The word hung in the air like a blade. Seren's stomach turned. "What are you talking about? You talking?" Kael moved to the altar, his eyes scanning the symbols carved into the stone. Corvus believed the Pax had become weak, corrupt. He wanted to burn it all down and rebuild from scratch.
But he needed a weapon powerful enough to do it. An ember wolf, raised from childhood, trained to be utterly ruthless. He was going to use me. He was going to use you to slaughter every alpha in the region, then install himself as the supreme leader. Seren's knees buckled. She caught herself on the altar, her fingers inches from her mother's skull. Why didn't he? Because your mother fought back. She was stronger than he anticipated. She managed to break free, burn the house down, disrupt his plans long enough that... Kale stopped. Wait. He pulled something from his pocket. A small leather journal, its pages yellowed with age. I found this in Corvus's study after he died. I couldn't read most of it, coded language, encrypted symbols. But one entry was clear. He flipped to a marked page and began to read aloud. The subject has bonded prematurely. Unexpected complication. Colin Virex claims fatherhood, but genetic markers confirm otherwise. The child is mine, my blood, my legacy. Alara's resistance is irrelevant. The Ember Wolf will rise, and when it does, it will answer to me alone. Seren's vision blurred. No, I'm sorry. No, he's lying. He has to be lying. Seren, Kael's voice was gentle. The timeline fits. Alara came to the Virex pack already pregnant. Colin assumed the child was his, that the bond had formed early. But if Corvus had been, if he'd forced himself on her before she left... Stop. Seren pressed her hands over her ears. Stop talking. You need to hear this. I don't. I don't need to hear that my father was a rapist and a psychopath who wanted to turn me into a fucking weapon. Her voice echoed through the chamber, raw and broken. Kale closed the journal. I know this is... You know nothing. Seren's fire flared, casting wild shadows on the walls. You've been lying to me from the start. You said you were my uncle. You said you wanted to help me. But you've just been using me, haven't you? Just like him, just like Colin, just like everyone. That's not true. Isn't it? You show up out of nowhere, train me, push me to unlock my power. And now I find out your grandfather was the one who fucked up my entire life? She laughed bitterly. What's your endgame, Kael? You want to finish what Corvus started? Use me to destroy the packs? No, Kale's eyes flashed. I want to stop you from becoming what he intended. That's why I've been training you, to give you control so the power doesn't consume you. Bullshit. It's the truth. Then why bring me here? Why lead me to this chamber, to her bones, to all of this? Seren gestured wildly at the altar, the symbols, the darkness pressing in from all sides. You wanted me to see it, wanted me to know. I didn't know this chamber existed until the ground opened up. I fell through the same hole you did. Seren stared at him. He looked sincere, sounded sincere, but so had everyone else who'd ever hurt her. I can't trust you, she said quietly. I know. I can't trust anyone. I know that too. Kale stepped closer. But right now you don't have a choice. The packs are coming. They felt what you did to the mate bond, and they're not going to stop until you're dead or captured. Let them come. You can't fight them all. Watch me. Seren, the chamber shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. The symbols on the walls flared brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. And then a new voice cut through the darkness. She won't have to fight them all. Just me. Seren and Kael spun. Kalin stood at the chamber entrance, blood-streaked and furious, his wolf blazing in his eyes. How did you... Kael started. Followed your scent. Not difficult, considering you left a trail of destruction across half my territory. Kalin's gaze locked on Seren. We need to talk. I'm done talking. Too bad. He stepped into the chamber and the symbols on the walls reacted, flaring white-hot. Kalin hissed in pain but didn't retreat. You burned our bond. Fine. You reject me. I can live with that. But you need to understand what you've done. I freed myself. You declared war on every pack in the region. Burning a mate bond isn't just rejection. It's a violation of natural law. Every alpha out there is going to see you as a threat that needs to be eliminated. Then they can try. They will. And they'll succeed. Because you're untrained, unstable, and running on borrowed time. Cullen's voice dropped. But there's a way out. Seren's hands ignited. I'm not interested. You should be. Because the only way to survive this is to complete the Luna trial. The words hit like a slap. Seren laughed. You're insane. I'm banished, remember? You threw me out.
I'm unbanishing you. Temporarily.
Kellen's expression was unreadable. The trial was never finished. You were disqualified before completing the challenges.
If you go back, finish what you started and win, the other packs will have to acknowledge you as Luna. It's tradition, sacred law. They can't touch you. And if I lose, you die. But at least it'll be in the arena, with honor, instead of being torn apart by a mob in the woods. Seren looked at Kael. Is he serious? Kael's face was pale. Unfortunately, yes. Completing the trial would grant you immunity under pack law. But Seren, the challenges are designed to kill, especially for someone without a pack wolf, Kaelin interrupted. She has an ember wolf. That's stronger, if she can control it. She can't. Not yet. Then she'd better learn fast. Kaelin turned back to Seren. You have 1 hour to decide. After that, the other alphas arrive and all bets are off.
Why are you doing this? Seren demanded. You want me dead. Why offer me a way out? Kaelin was silent for a long moment. Then he said, Because I owe your mother that much. She died believing I'd protect you. I failed. But maybe giving you a fighting chance, is enough to balance the scales. Your guilt doesn't mean shit to me.
I know, but the offer stands. He started toward the exit, then paused. And Seren, if you do come back, if you step into that arena, I won't go easy on you. You'll face the same trials as everyone else. Probably worse, given what you are. Good, Seren said. I wouldn't want it any other way. Kaelin nodded once, then disappeared into the passageway. Kael exhaled slowly. He's right about one thing. Finishing the trial is your best shot at survival.
I don't want to survive. I want to burn everything down. That's Corvus talking, not you. How do you know? Maybe I am what he made me. Maybe I'm exactly the monster everyone thinks I am. Kael grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. You're not a monster. You're angry, and you have every right to be. But anger isn't the same as evil, and you get to choose what you do with it. Seren's throat tightened. I don't know how to choose anymore. I don't even know who I am. Then figure it out. In the arena, in the trial, prove to yourself and everyone else that you're more than what Corvus intended. And if I can't, then at least you'll go down swinging. On.
The climb back to the surface took less time than the fall. The passageway spiraled upward, lit by the same glowing symbols that covered the chamber walls. Seren's mind churned the entire way. Corvus Dravenor, her father, a man who'd raped her mother, experimented on her as a child, and planned to use her as a weapon of mass destruction. And Kaelin, who'd rejected her mother, driven her to desperation, but now offered a twisted form of redemption. And Kael, who claimed to want to help but carried the blood of the man who'd destroyed her life. Everyone had used her. Everyone had lied. The only person she could trust was herself. And even that was questionable. They emerged from the earth into chaos. The ravine was gone, replaced by a massive crater where the ground had collapsed. Wolves circled the perimeter, dozens of them, from multiple packs, their eyes glowing in the darkness. Waiting. Colin stood at the crater's edge, still in human form. Beside him, 3 other figures. Alphas, judging by the power radiating off them. One was a woman with silver hair and scars across her face. Another was a massive man who looked like he could bend steel with his bare hands. The third was younger, lean, and vicious, with eyes like a snake. Seren Vale, the woman called out. Step forward. We have questions. Seren climbed out of the crater, her legs steady, despite the exhaustion pulling at her bones. Kael followed, staying close. I'm here, Seren said. Ask. The woman's eyes raked over her. You burned a forming mate bond. Yes. Do you understand what that means? Yes. Do you care? Seren smiled. Not even a little. The lean alpha hissed. Arrogant bitch! You think you can just... Enough, Voss? The woman raised a hand. I am Alpha Marin of the Thornridge Pack. This is Alpha Darius of Stoneclaw and Alpha Voss of Shadowfen. We're here to determine whether you pose a threat to the stability of our packs. And if you decide I do, then we execute you, here, now. Serene's fire flickered to life in her palms. You can try. Darius laughed, a booming sound. She's got spine. I'll give her that. Spine won't save her, Voss snarled. She violated sacred law. The punishment is death. Actually, Kellen interjected, the punishment is exile or trial by combat. Death is only prescribed if she refuses both. Marin's eyes narrowed. You're defending her, Virex? I'm stating facts. If you want to kill her, do it legally. Otherwise, you're no better than a rogue. Voss stepped forward. You think we care about legality? She's an Ember Wolf, an abomination. She should have been drowned at birth. But she wasn't, Kalen said calmly. She's here. She's alive. And she's offering to complete the Luna trial. If she wins, she's granted immunity. If she loses, she's dead anyway. Either way, the problem resolves itself. Marin considered this. The trial was contaminated. She revealed her nature before completing it. That invalidates the results. Then let her start over. Clean slate. 3 challenges, same as any other competitor. And if she uses her fire? Then she uses it. The trial doesn't specify how you survive, only that you do. Darius grinned. I like it. Let the little Ember Wolf burn herself out. If she survives, she's earned it. Voss looked ready to argue, but Marin raised a hand again. Very well, Seren Vale, you will complete the Luna trial under the supervision of all 4 packs. If you succeed, you will be acknowledged as Luna of the Virex pack, with all the protections that entails. If you fail, your body will be burned, and your ashes scattered to ensure no remnant of the Ember Wolf bloodline remains. She paused. Do you accept these terms? Seren looked at Kyle. He gave a tiny nod. She looked at Kayleen. His face was unreadable. She looked at the assembled wolves, dozens of them, all waiting to see her fail. And she smiled. I accept. Saints. The arena had been rebuilt, reinforced. The stone walls now etched with symbols designed to contain magical energy, specifically fire. Seren stood at the center, surrounded by 4,000 wolves from 4 different packs. The noise was deafening. Jeers, cheers, howls of anticipation. Colin's voice cut through it all, amplified by Alpha Command. The first challenge is endurance. You will face the gauntlet, a series of obstacles designed to break your body and spirit. Most competitors take an hour. If you survive longer than that, you pass. A gate opened at the far end of the arena. Beyond it, darkness. Begin. Seren ran. The gauntlet was hell. Spiked walls that closed in from both sides, pits filled with oil and flame, swinging blades that came out of nowhere. She dodged, rolled, jumped, her Ember Wolf power flaring every time she took damage. But the symbols on the arena walls dampened her fire. She could only summon small bursts, barely enough to keep her alive. Blood poured from a dozen wounds, her vision blurred, her legs screamed, and then she saw it. At the end of the gauntlet, a doorway. Freedom. She lunged for it, and the floor gave way. She fell into a pit lined with silver spikes. Silver. The one metal that could pierce even Ember Wolf healing. One spike drove through her shoulder, another through her thigh. She screamed. Above, the crowd roared. Cullen's voice echoed down. You have 30 seconds to climb out, or you fail. 30 seconds, with silver in her body, draining her strength, poisoning her blood. Impossible. Seren grabbed the spike in her shoulder and pulled. The pain was blinding. She could feel the silver burning through her veins, spreading like acid. But she pulled anyway. The spike came free with a wet sound. Blood gushed. She grabbed the second spike, pulled. It didn't budge. 20 seconds. She could feel consciousness slipping away. Her vision going dark. This was it. This was how she died. And then that voice again. The one from the chamber. You are not weak, daughter. You are fire, and fire consumes everything, even silver. Seren's eyes snapped open. She reached deep into her chest, past the pain, past the fear, and found the core of her Ember Wolf. And she let it out. Golden flames erupted from her body, so hot they turned the air white. The silver spikes melted. The stone walls cracked. The very ground beneath her began to liquefy. She rose from the pit on wings of fire, her wounds already healing,
her power burning brighter than it ever had. 10 seconds. She landed at the doorway and stumbled through. The crowd fell silent. Then Kalen's voice, quiet and almost awed. She passes. Seren collapsed, the fire dying, her body shaking with exhaustion. But she was smiling. 1 challenge down, 2 to go. Well, what? The second challenge came immediately. No rest, no recovery. The trial of the mind, Maren announced. You will face your greatest fear, survive it, and you pass. The arena shifted. The walls disappeared, replaced by a forest. No, not a forest, her forest. The woods behind the pack house where she used to hide as a child. And standing among the trees, a figure. Silver hair, cold eyes. Corvus Dravenor. Hello, daughter, he said, smiling. Did you miss me? Seren's blood turned to ice. You're dead. Am I? He stepped closer. Or am I just the part of you that refuses to die? The part that knows what you really are? I'm not you. Aren't you? You've killed, burned, destroyed, just like I taught you. His smile widened. You're finally becoming what I always knew you could be. A weapon. My weapon. No. Yes. He was right in front of her now. And deep down, you love it. You love the power, the fear in their eyes, the way they scatter when you ignite. Seren's hand shook. You're wrong. Then prove it. Turn off your fire. Right now. Become human. Weak. Helpless. She tried. The fire wouldn't go out. It burned in her chest, her veins, her soul, refusing to be extinguished. Corvus laughed. You can't. Because you're not human anymore. You're mine. You've always been mine. And suddenly he was grabbing her, his hands cold as death, pulling her close. Come home, Seren. Stop fighting what you are. Embrace the monster. His touch burned colder than silver. Seren screamed, and the world shattered. She was back in the arena on her knees, gasping. Corvus was gone. The forest was gone. But the words echoed. Embrace the monster, Maren's voice cut through the silence. She's still conscious. Inconclusive. We need. She passed, Kael called out. The fear didn't break her. It didn't defeat her either. That's not the test. The test is survival. She's still standing. After a long pause, Maren nodded. She passes. 2 down. Seren pushed herself upright, her whole body trembling. One more challenge, and then Kalen stepped into the arena, his wolf surging to the surface. The final trial, he said, his voice echoing across the crowd, is me. Seren's heart stopped. What? You want to be Luna? You have to defeat the Alpha. That's the law. You can't. I can. And I will. His eyes flashed gold. This is your last chance to walk away, Seren. Take it, because if you stay, I will tear you apart. Seren looked up at the thousands of wolves surrounding them. At Kael, his face grim. At Maren and the other Alphas, watching with cold anticipation. No escape, no mercy, only the fight. She stood, calling fire to her hands. Then let's... But before she could finish, the ground beneath the arena exploded, and something massive and ancient crawled out of the earth, its eyes burning with malevolent intelligence. And Kalen's face went white with recognition as he whispered, No, not here, not now. That's... And the creature roared, and the entire arena. The creature that emerged from the shattered earth wasn't just big, it was impossibility made flesh. 20 feet tall if it was an inch, its body a grotesque fusion of wolf and something older, something that had crawled out of nightmares and decided to stay. Its fur was black as void, matted with what looked like bone fragments growing through the skin. 6 eyes blazed crimson across a skull too large for any natural animal, and when it opened its mouth, rows of teeth gleamed like obsidian blades. The stench hit first, rot and sulfur and ancient blood, then the roar, a sound that rattled Seren's bones and sent half the crowd scrambling for the exits. Kalen staggered back, his face ashen. That's a Voidborn. That's a fucking Voidborn. A what? Seren shouted over the creature's snarling. Something that shouldn't exist anymore. We hunted them to extinction 2 centuries ago. Well, you missed one. The Voidborn's 6 eyes fixed on Seren, all of them, like it could see through her skin straight into the fire burning in her chest. Then it spoke. Not in words, in pure thought, driven directly into her skull like nails. Ember Wolf. Finally. Seren clutched her head, gasping. What the fuck? I have waited, slept beneath stone, waited for your kind to resurface. I don't know what you want. Revenge. Your ancestors burned my mate, my children, my entire bloodline. The creature took a step forward, the arena floor cracking under its weight. Now I burn yours! It lunged. Seren threw herself sideways, fire exploding from her hands on instinct. The flames hit the Voidborn's flank and splashed off like water on stone. Shit! The creature's massive paw came down where she'd been standing, pulverizing stone. Seren rolled, came up running, her heart trying to jackhammer through her ribs. Colin shifted mid-stride, his black wolf form charging the Voidborn from the side. He hit it like a battering ram, teeth going for the throat. The Voidborn backhanded him across the arena. Kellen's wolf form slammed into the wall, hard enough to crack stone. He dropped, stunned. The other alphas were shouting orders, their packs forming defensive lines, but no one was moving in. They were terrified, and they had every right to be. Kyle! Seren screamed. He was already moving, shifting as he ran, his amber wolf leaping onto the Voidborn's back and tearing at the exposed spine. The creature bucked, roaring in fury, but Kael held on. Seren's mind raced. Fire didn't work. Physical attacks barely slowed it down. What the hell could kill something like this? Then she remembered what Kael had said in the ravine. Emberwolf fire doesn't just burn flesh. It burns through magical bonds. This thing was old magic, ancient magic. Maybe she could burn that. Seren closed her eyes, reaching deep into her chest where the Emberwolf lived. The fire responded immediately, eager, hungry. But controlling it was like trying to hold lightning in her bare hands. She pushed harder, forcing the flames to condense, to sharpen, to become something more than just raw destruction. Come on, you bastard. I know you can do this. The fire changed, shifted. Instead of spreading outward, it spiraled inward, coiling tighter and tighter, until it was a single point of white-hot intensity in her palm. Seren's eyes snapped open. The Voidborn had thrown Kael off and was advancing on her again, its massive jaws opening wide. Your fire is nothing. I am eternal. Then let's test that theory. Seren thrust her hand forward and released the condensed flame. It shot across the arena like a spear of pure light, so bright the crowd screamed and covered their eyes. The fire hit the Voidborn square in the chest and kept going, drilling through fur and flesh and bone, burning away the magic that held the creature together. The Voidborn shrieked, a sound that made the ground shake and the sky darken. Impossible. You are untrained. Weak. I'm fucking learning! Seren roared, pouring more power into the flame. The Voidborn thrashed, trying to retreat, but the fire had latched on, burrowing deeper, consuming the ancient magic from the inside out. And then Kalen was beside her, back in human form, blood streaming from a gash across his temple. Keep it distracted, he gasped. I need 30 seconds. For what? Just do it. Seren didn't argue. She pulled the fire back, letting the Voidborn stagger away, then hit it with another burst aimed at its legs. The creature roared and turned toward her, pure hatred blazing in those 6 eyes. I will devour you, slowly. I will make you watch as I tear apart everything you... Colleen slammed both hands against the arena floor and screamed a word in a language Seren didn't recognize. The symbols carved into the walls blazed white-hot, then shifted, rearranging themselves into a new pattern. The air inside the arena thickened, turned viscous like invisible chains wrapping around everything inside. A containment spell. The Voidborn felt it immediately. It tried to move, to charge, but the magic held it in place. Clever, but not enough. It won't last long, Kalen panted. Maybe a minute. You need to finish this now. Seren's hands were shaking, her body already pushed past its limits. I don't know if I can. You have to. I've never killed anything this big. Then learn fast. Colin grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. I know you hate me. I know you want nothing to do with me or this pack or any of this.
But right now, you're all that stands between that thing and 4,000 dead wolves. So dig deep and find whatever piece of you is still fighting and use it." Seren stared at him. Blood and sweat streaked his face. His wolf was barely contained beneath his skin, thrashing against the strain of maintaining the containment spell. He was terrified. And he was trusting her anyway. She turned back to the Voidborn. The creature was straining against the magical chains, its muscles bulging, cracks already forming in the spell. 30 seconds left. Maybe less. Seren took a breath, then another, and reached for the Emberwolf. Not just the fire. All of it. The rage, the pain, the 19 years of suffering and survival and swallowed screams. Every ounce of fury she'd buried because feeling it meant breaking. She let it break. The fire erupted from her body in a column of golden light that shot straight into the sky. The temperature in the arena spiked, hot enough to make the air shimmer, hot enough to turn sand to glass. The crowd scattered, fleeing the heat. Kale shifted and bolted for cover, dragging an unconscious Kaelin with him, and Seren walked toward the Voidborn, her entire body burning. "What are you doing?" "Finishing this." She placed both hands on the creature's chest and let the Emberwolf consume it. The fire poured into the Voidborn like a flood through a broken dam, burning through flesh and bone and ancient magic, unraveling every spell that had kept the creature alive for centuries. The Voidborn screamed, a sound that echoed across dimensions, and tried to fight back. But there was nothing left to fight with. Seren felt the moment it died, felt the magic collapse, the consciousness wink out, the body crumble to ash. And then she felt nothing. Her legs gave out. The fire died. She hit the ground hard and lay there, staring at the sky, too exhausted to move. Around her, the arena was silent. Then someone started clapping. Slowly. Deliberately. Seren turned her head. Maren stood at the edge of the arena, her scarred face impassive. "Impressive," the Alpha said. "Brutal, effective, and completely reckless." "Did I pass?" Seren's voice came out as a rasp. "You killed a Voidborn. Something that hasn't been seen in 200 years. Something that, by all accounts, shouldn't have been killable by a single wolf." Maren's expression didn't change. "Yes, you pass. Congratulations, Seren Vale. You are now Luna of the Virex Pack." The words should have felt like victory. They felt like a death sentence for God. They carried her to a chamber beneath the arena while healers worked on her burns. Kael stayed close, his face grim. Kalin was being treated in another room. The containment spell had nearly killed him, drained his power to the dregs. "You shouldn't have done that," Kael said quietly, "using that much power at once. You could have burned yourself out completely. But I didn't. This time. Next time you might not be so lucky." Seren closed her eyes. "There won't be a next time." "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm done. With the trial. With the pack. With all of it." She opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. "I passed. I'm Luna. That grants me immunity, right? Protection under pack law?" "Yes." "Then I'm using that immunity to leave. Permanently." Kael's face went still. "You can't." "Watch me." "Seren, if you walk away from the Luna position, the immunity disappears. You'll be considered a rogue, fair game for any pack that wants you dead. Then I'll fight them." "You can barely stand. I'll heal." "Not fast enough," Kael's voice rose. "You think this is over? That killing the Voidborn solved everything?" "There are questions, Seren. Big ones. Like where the hell that thing came from. Like who woke it up. Like why it was specifically hunting Emberwolves." Seren's stomach clenched. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying someone summoned it. Someone with access to ancient magic and a grudge against your bloodline." Kael leaned closer. "And I think I know who." "Corvus is dead. His body is dead, but his work isn't. I found more journals in his study, instructions for rituals, binding spells, and one entry that mentioned a failsafe, a contingency in case his plans with you failed." Kael's jaw tightened. "He bonded himself to a Voidborn, promised it an Emberwolf in exchange for power. And when he died, that bond transferred to the creature, which means it's been waiting, watching until you surfaced. The room spun. So this is still his fault. Even dead, he's still
trying to destroy you. Yes. Kael's hand closed over hers, which is why you can't leave. Not yet. We need to find out if there are more creatures, more traps, more pieces of Corvus's legacy waiting to finish what he started. I don't care. You should, because if there are more Voidborn out there, they won't stop with you. They'll go after anyone with Emberwolf blood, which means there is no one with Emberwolf blood. I'm the last one. Are you sure? The question hung in the air. Seren stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying Corvus was obsessed with bloodlines, with breeding, with creating the perfect weapon. Kael's voice dropped. What if you're not the only child he had? Seren's blood turned to ice. No, that's impossible. My mother
was one woman, but Corvus had decades, access to multiple packs, and no morals whatsoever. Kael pulled out another journal, this one smaller, the pages brittle with age. I found this hidden in a false bottom of his desk. It's a genealogy. Names, dates, locations. And according to this, there are at least 3 other bloodlines he tampered with. Seren grabbed the journal, her hands shaking. The pages were filled with names, most of them crossed out. Dead. But a few remained unmarked. And at the bottom of one page, a single notation. Subject 7. Successful integration. Dormant gene activated. Monitor for manifestation. No name, just coordinates. Somewhere in the Shadowfen territory. We need to find them, Kael said, before someone else does. Or before they manifest and burn down their own packs, Seren whispered. She looked up at Kael, her mind racing. 3 others. 3 more Emberwolves, potentially, walking around with no idea what they were or what kind of danger they were in. 3 more weapons waiting to be triggered. I'll help you find them, she said finally, but on one condition. Name it. After this is done, after we've found them and made sure they're safe, I walk away. No more trials, no more politics. No more playing Luna for a pack that will never accept me. Kael hesitated. If you walk away, Kalin will hunt you. Pack law. Fuck pack law. Seren's voice was steel. I didn't ask to be Luna. I didn't ask for any of this. I just wanted to survive. And now that I have, I'm going to live on my own terms. Even if it means spending the rest of your life running. Even then. Kael studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. We find the others, make sure they're safe. Then you're free. Promise? I promise. Seren didn't believe him, not entirely, but it was better than nothing. She closed the journal and stood, ignoring the way her legs trembled. How long until I can travel? You need at least 3 days to heal. I'll heal on the road. We leave tomorrow. Seren, tomorrow, Kael. Before the other alphas start asking questions I can't answer. He sighed but didn't argue. Fine, tomorrow, but we're taking precautions. Wards, weapons, and backup. Backup? You think I'm letting you go alone? Especially into Shadowfen territory? Voss already wants you dead. If he finds out why we're really there, then we don't tell him. We go in quiet, find Subject 7, and get out. And if Subject 7 doesn't want to be found? Seren's hands ignited with a flicker of gold flame. Then I'll convince them. What? The knock came an hour later, after the healers had left and Kael had gone to gather supplies. Seren was alone, staring at the journal, when Kalin walked in. He looked like hell. Pale, drawn, moving like every step hurt, but his eyes were clear. We need to talk, he said. No, we don't. Yes, we do. He closed the door behind him. You're planning to leave. It wasn't a question. How did you? Because I know you. And I know that look. You're not staying. Seren set the journal aside. You're right. I'm not. Kalin was silent for a moment. Then he said, I can't let you do that. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. You're Luna now. That makes you part of this pack, part of my responsibility. I don't want your responsibility. Too bad. You earned it. You killed a Voidborn, completed the trial, and claimed the position. You don't get to just walk away because it's inconvenient. Seren stood, fury rising. Inconvenient? You think this is about convenience? You threw me out, Cullen. You banished me. You were ready to let me die in the woods. And now you want to keep me here because it fits your narrative? I want to keep you here because it's the only way to keep you alive. I can keep myself alive. Can you? Helen stepped closer. Because from where I'm standing, you've survived through sheer luck and borrowed power. The moment you step outside pack protection, every alpha in the region will be gunning for you. Let them. They'll kill you, Seren. Then I'll die fighting, which is better than dying slowly in a cage made of duty and tradition. Kellen's jaw clenched. Is that what you think this is? A cage? What else would you call it? I'm stuck here, bound by laws I didn't choose, forced to play a role I never wanted. If that's not a cage, I don't know what is. You could make it something else. You could change things, reform the pack, rewrite the laws, build something better. I don't want to build anything, Seren's voice cracked. I just want to be free. Free to do what? Run? Hide? Spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder? If that's what it takes. Kaelin stared at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked genuinely lost. I don't understand you, he said quietly. You have power, position, respect, everything my mother fought for, everything Alara wanted for you, and you're throwing it away. Your mother is dead. My mother is dead, and I'm not living my life for ghosts. Seren turned away. I'm done with this conversation. We're not done. Yes, we are. No. Cullen grabbed her arm, spinning her around. We're not. Because whether you like it or not, we're connected. The bond might be burned, but the blood remains. You're my responsibility, Seren, and I don't abandon my... Responsibilities? Seren laughed bitterly. Is that what I am to you? A responsibility? Not a person. Not someone with their own wants and needs. Just another obligation you have to fulfill. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. Because that's all I've ever been to anyone. A weapon to Corvus, a nuisance to the pack, a problem to you. And now suddenly, I'm valuable because I can kill things. She pulled her arm free. Well, fuck that. And fuck you. I'm not staying. Cullen's face went hard. Then you'll be banished. Again. Permanently. Fine. And I'll hunt you myself. Bring it on. They stood there inches apart, both breathing hard. And then Kaelin did something that shocked them both. He stepped back. Okay, he said, his voice rough. Okay. You want to leave? Leave. I won't stop you. Seren blinked. What? I said I won't stop you. If you want to run, run. I'm done fighting you. Just like that? Just like that. Cullen moved toward the door. But know this. The moment you step outside pack territory, you're on your own. No protection, no allies. And when the others come for you, and they will, don't expect me to save you. He left before she could respond. Seren stood there staring at the closed door, her heart pounding. She'd won. So why did it feel like losing? The next morning, Seren and Kael left before dawn. No goodbyes, no ceremony, just two wolves slipping into the forest while the pack slept. They traveled fast, pushing hard through dense woods and rocky terrain. Kael led the way, following the coordinates from Corvus's journal. Shadowfen territory was 3 days north, across neutral ground and through a stretch of wilderness known for rogue activity. They didn't talk much. Kael seemed lost in thought, and Seren was too exhausted to make conversation. On the second night, they made camp in a clearing beside a stream. Kael built a fire while Seren cleaned her weapons, a knife she'd stolen from the armory and a short sword Kael had insisted she take. You know how to use those? Kael asked, watching her check the blade's edge. I'm learning. That's not reassuring. Neither is walking into hostile territory to find someone who might not exist. Kael smiled grimly. Fair point. They ate in silence, dried meat and hard bread, and then Kael pulled out a map, spreading it across the ground. We're here, he said, pointing to a mark near the center. Shadowfen borders are another day north. The coordinates put Subject 7 somewhere near the eastern edge, close to the old mining district. What's there? Nothing anymore. The mines collapsed 20 years ago, killed most of the workers. The area's been abandoned since. So why would Corvus hide someone there? Because no one would look.
And because collapsed mines make excellent hiding places for things you don't want found. Seren's stomach twisted. You think Subject 7 is trapped? I think if they were free, we'd have heard about them by now. Ember wolves don't exactly blend in. Unless they're dormant, like I was.
Maybe. But Corvus's notes suggest Subject 7 was older than you when they were altered, late teens, which means they would have had some awareness of what was happening. And that makes them dangerous, and that makes them unpredictable. Kyle folded the map. Which is why we approach carefully. No sudden moves, no threats. We find them, explain the situation, and offer help. And if they don't want help, then we make sure they're not a threat and leave. Seren didn't believe it would be that simple. Nothing in her life had ever been simple, but she kept that thought to herself. Osil. They reached the mining district the next afternoon. The place was a graveyard. Collapsed structures, rusted equipment, and piles of rubble as far as the eye could see. The air smelled like rust and old death. Cheerful, Seren muttered. Stay close. Kael's hand went to the knife at his belt. And keep your fire ready. They moved through the ruins, following the coordinates. The further they went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became, like something was watching them. Finally, they reached the entrance to one of the mines. A gaping black mouth in the side of a hill, half buried by debris. This is it, Kael said. Seren peered into the darkness. You're sure? According to the coordinates, yes. Great. So we just walk into the creepy death tunnel and hope for the best. You have a better idea? Not even a little. They descended. The mine shaft was narrow, the walls slick with moisture. Seren's fire provided light, casting flickering shadows that made everything look alive. The deeper they went, the colder it got. And then they heard it. Breathing, heavy, labored, coming from somewhere ahead. Kael raised a hand, signaling her to stop. They moved forward slowly, weapons drawn. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, and at the center, chained to the wall, was a figure, female, maybe 25. Emaciated, filthy, her clothes little more than rags. But her eyes burned gold. Ember wolf. She looked up as they entered, and a smile split her cracked lips. Finally, she rasped. I've been waiting so long. Kael stepped forward. We're here to help. Help? The woman laughed, a broken sound. You're here to die. The chains exploded, not broke. Exploded, disintegrated into dust. And the woman rose, her body igniting with fire that burned white hot, so intense it made Seren's flames look like candles. Subject 7 sends her regards, the woman said, her voice layered with something else, something ancient. And her master wants his weapon back. Then she lunged, and the mine shaft turned into an inferno. Seren barely had time to throw up a shield of her own fire before the woman's attack hit. White flames colliding with gold in an explosion that sent chunks of rock raining down from the ceiling. The impact drove her back, her boots skidding across loose stone. Kael shifted mid-leap, his wolf form tackling the woman from the side. They hit the ground in a tangle of fur and fire, his jaws snapping for her throat. But the woman moved like liquid, twisting out from under him and driving a palm wreathed in flame into his ribs. Kael's wolf yelped and flew backward, hitting the wall hard enough to leave a crater. Kael! Seren lunged forward, fire building in her hands. The woman turned those burning eyes on her. You're the new one, the last one he made before he died. She tilted her head, studying Seren like an insect pinned to a board. You're weaker than I expected. And you're crazier than I expected. So we're even. The woman laughed, and the sound echoed wrong, like multiple voices overlapping. Crazy? No. Enlightened. Corvus showed me the truth, showed me what we really are. We're not weapons, aren't we? The woman's fire flared brighter. You killed a Voidborn, single-handedly. Burned a mate bond. Survived trials designed to break you. If that's not a weapon, what is? Seren's chest tightened. That's not all I am. It's all that matters. The woman's expression twisted into something savage. The rest is just meat. Weakness. The part of us that bleeds and breaks and begs. Corvus taught me to burn that away, and now I'm going to teach you. She attacked again, faster this time, her movements a blur. Seren met her head on, their fires clashing in bursts of light and heat. The mine shaft shook, cracks spiderwebbing across the walls. They fought like animals, all teeth and claws and desperation. The woman was faster, more experienced, her control over the Emberwolf power terrifyingly precise. But Seren had something she didn't. Rage. Raw, unfiltered fury at everything that had been done to her, to her mother, to this woman and whoever else Corvus had destroyed in his quest for the perfect weapon. She channeled it all into her fire, feeling the flames respond, growing hotter, brighter, until the air itself started to burn. The woman faltered, surprise flickering across her face. Seren pressed the advantage, driving her back with a barrage of fire so intense the stone beneath their feet began to melt. The woman stumbled, her own flames flickering. "You can't win," Seren snarled. "I'm done being afraid." "Then you're an idiot." The woman's eyes blazed. "Fear is what keeps us alive. Without it, we're just—" Kael hit her from behind, his wolf form slamming into her with the force of a freight train. They went down together, and this time Kael didn't let go. His jaws closed around her throat, not biting, just holding, a clear threat. The woman went still. "Let me go," she hissed. "Not a chance," Kael's voice growled in Seren's mind, the alpha command carrying even in wolf form. Seren moved closer, her fire still flickering around her hands. Up close, she could see the scars covering the woman's arms, the hollowness in her eyes beneath the madness. She looked broken, worn down to nothing, just like Seren had been. "What's your name?" Seren asked quietly. The woman's eyes narrowed. "Why do you care?" "Because you're not Subject 7. You're a person, and I want to know who I'm talking to." For a long moment, the woman said nothing. Then, so quietly Seren almost missed it, "Lyra. My name was Lyra." "Was?" "Before Corvus took it. Before he made me into this." Lyra's voice cracked. "I was just a healer, a nobody from a small pack. And then he came, with his promises and his experiments, and when I woke up—" She stopped, her throat working. "When I woke up, I was someone else. Something else." Seren's chest ached. "How long ago?" 8 years. I've been down here for 8 years, chained to this wall, with nothing but his voice in my head telling me what I was, what I had to become." Lyra's eyes filled with tears that evaporated before they could fall. "And the worst part? Sometimes I believed him. He's dead now. I know. I felt it when the bond broke, felt his presence disappear." Lyra laughed bitterly. "But his voice is still here, still telling me to burn, to destroy, to finish what he started. You don't have to listen." "Yes, I do. Because if I stop, if I let the fire go out, there's nothing left. Just the broken thing underneath." Lyra met Seren's gaze. "And I can't live with that." Seren understood, more than she wanted to. She knelt down, meeting Lyra at eye level. "I spent 19 years being told I was worthless, wolfless, nothing. And part of me believed it, part of me still does." She held up her hand, letting the fire dance across her palm. "But then I found this, found out I was something more than what they told me. And yeah, it's terrifying, and yeah, I don't know what to do with it most of the time. But it's mine. Not Corvus's, not anyone else's. Mine." Lyra stared at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the voice in your head is lying. You're not just fire. You're not just a weapon. You're Lyra, a healer. A person who survived 8 years of hell and is still fighting." Seren extended her hand. "And if you let us, we can help you find the rest of yourself. The parts Corvus tried to burn away." Lyra looked at Seren's hand like it was a trap. "Why would you help me? I just tried to kill you." "Because someone helped me. And because leaving you here to rot is exactly what Corvus would have wanted." Seren's voice hardened. "And I'm done letting that bastard win." For a long moment, nothing. Then Lyra's fire flickered and died. And she took Seren's hand. Kael released her throat, shifting back to human form. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, his breathing labored, but he managed to smile. "Welcome back, Lyra," he said. Lyra didn't smile. She just stared at their joined hands, her expression lost and fragile. "I don't know how to be her anymore," she whispered. "Then we'll figure it out together," Seren said. The journey back took twice as long. Lyra could barely walk, her body weakened from years of captivity and malnutrition. Kyle carried her most of the way, his wolf form strong enough to bear the weight despite his injuries. They stopped frequently to rest, to let Lyra eat, to give her time to process the fact that she was finally free. On the third night, as they camped in a clearing under a canopy of stars, Lyra finally spoke. "There are others." Seren looked up from the fire she'd been tending. "What?" "Other subjects. Corvus kept records, names, locations. I saw them before he locked me away." Lyra's voice was rough, unused to conversation. "At least 2 more. Maybe 3. Kale cursed softly. "Where?" "I don't know the exact coordinates, but one was in Stoneclaw territory, another somewhere near the coast, and the third—" She stopped, her face going pale. "The third was in the Virex pack." Seren's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. I would have felt them, would have known—" "Not if they're still dormant. Not if the trigger hasn't been activated." Lyra wrapped her arms around herself. "Corvus designed it that way. Each subject had a specific trigger. Mine was trauma. Yours was—" She looked at Seren. "You volunteered for the Luna trial, didn't you? That was your trigger, the moment you chose to fight instead of submit." Seren's stomach twisted. "What's the third subject's trigger?" "I don't know. Corvus never told me. But if they're in the Virex pack, if they've been there this whole time—" "Then Kaelin knows," Kael finished grimly. "Or suspects." "We need to go back," Seren said, standing. "Now." "You're not strong enough." "I don't care. If there's another Emberwolf in that pack, if they manifest without warning, people will die. A lot of people." She turned to Lyra. "Can you travel?" Lyra nodded slowly. "If it means stopping Corvus's plan, I'll crawl if I have to." Mag. They reached Virex territory 4 days later, exhausted and half-starved. The pack house was in chaos. Warriors running everywhere, voices raised in panic. Smoke rising from the training grounds. Seren's heart sank. "We're too late." They sprinted toward the smoke. As they got closer, Seren could see the source. The arena. Again. And at its center, a figure wreathed in flame. Not white-hot like Lyra's, not golden like Seren's, blue, cold, like frozen fire. The figure was small, barely more than a child, and standing in front of them, trying to contain the inferno, was Colin. "Stand down!" he roared, his alpha command laced with desperation. "I order you to stand down!" The child didn't respond, just kept burning, their screams tearing through the air. Seren vaulted over the arena wall, landing hard. "Colin!" He spun, his face streaked with ash and blood. "Seren, thank the goddess." "What happened?" "I don't know. 1 minute everything was normal, the next, this—" He gestured helplessly at the burning child. "I can't get close. The fire's too cold. It's freezing everything it touches." Seren's mind raced. A cold fire. An Emberwolf variant she'd never heard of. "Who is it?" Kaelin's expression cracked. "My daughter." The world tilted. "Your what?" "My daughter. Mira's child. She's 8 years old." His voice broke. "I didn't know, didn't suspect. But when the fire started, when she began screaming about voices and burning, Corvus got to her too." Seren's hands clenched into fists. He must have altered her before she was born, embedded the trigger in her bloodline. "Can you stop it?" "I don't know. I can try." Seren moved toward the child, her own fire flickering to life. Lyra grabbed her arm. "Wait, if you go in there without knowing the trigger, you could make it worse." "Then what do I do?" "Talk to her. Find out what started this, what she's afraid of." Seren took a breath and stepped closer to the flames. The cold hit her like a wall, so intense it burned. Her fire flared automatically, trying to protect her, but the blue flames pushed back. "Hey!" she called out. "Can you hear me?" The child's screams stopped. She turned, and Seren could see her face now, tear-streaked, terrified. "It hurts," the child sobbed. "Make it stop, please. Make it stop." "I will, but I need you to tell me what happened. What made the fire start?" "I don't know. I was playing, and then I heard him.
The man with the silver hair, he said it was time, said I had to burn. Corvus, even dead, his voice embedded in her mind. He's lying, Seren said, forcing her voice to stay calm. The man is gone. He can't hurt you anymore. But he's right here. He's talking to me right now. The blue flames surged higher. Seren's mind raced. The trigger wasn't trauma or choice. It was the voice itself. Corvus had planted a command, a failsafe that activated when the subject reached a certain age, which meant the only way to stop it was to overwrite the command, to replace Corvus's voice with something stronger. Listen to me, Seren said, stepping closer despite the cold burning her skin. I know you're scared. I know the voice seems real, but it's not. It's just an echo, a ghost. And ghosts can't make you do anything unless you let them. I can't stop it. Yes, you can, because you're stronger than he ever was, stronger than he wanted you to be. Seren reached the edge of the flames, her hand extended. Take my hand. Let me show you. The child stared at her. It'll burn you. I know, but I'm not afraid of burning anymore. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the child reached out, their hands met. The cold fire slammed into Seren like a tsunami, freezing her blood, her bones, her soul. She screamed but held on, pouring her own fire into the child, warm and golden, wrapping around the cold flames and pulling them back. It was like trying to hold on to lightning and ice at the same time. Her body convulsed, her vision went white. And then she felt it. A connection, not a bond, something deeper, older. The Ember Wolf in the child recognized the Ember Wolf in her, and it listened. Seren spoke, not with her voice, but with her fire, her power, her will. You don't have to burn. You don't have to destroy. You can choose something else. Choose warmth instead of cold. Choose life instead of ash. The blue flames flickered, but he said, he lied. He lied to all of us. But we're not his anymore. We're ours. The cold fire began to fade, shrinking back, retreating into the child's body, and then it was gone. The child collapsed into Seren's arms, unconscious but breathing. Seren held her, shaking, as Kaelin rushed forward. She's alive, but she'll need help, training, someone who understands what she is. Seren looked up at him. Someone who won't try to bury it or use it. Just let her be. Kaelin's face was raw with emotion. Can you do that? Can you teach her? Seren looked down at the child in her arms. So small, so fragile, just like she'd been once. Yeah, she said quietly. I can do that. The next few weeks were a blur. Lyra stayed in the pack house, working with the healers to recover her strength. The child, her name was Alara, named after Seren's mother, woke up 3 days later with no memory of the fire or the voice. Kalin wanted to keep it that way, but Seren insisted on the truth. She needs to know what she is, Seren told him. Hiding it will only make it worse when it surfaces again. And if it destroys her, then we'll be there to catch her, the way no one was there for us. Kalin didn't argue after that. Seren spent her days training Alara, teaching her to summon the cold fire in small, controlled bursts, teaching her that power wasn't the same as destruction, and slowly, carefully, teaching her that she was more than what Corvus had tried to make her. Kael left after 2 weeks to search for the other subjects. He promised to return with anyone he found, to bring them to safety. Seren wasn't sure she believed him, but she hoped. On the 30th day, Kaelin found her sitting on the wall overlooking the pack territory, watching the sun set. You're still here, he said, sitting beside her. For now. Does that mean you're staying? Seren didn't answer immediately. She watched the sun paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson, the same colors as her fire. I don't know, she said finally. Part of me still wants to run, to disappear into the woods and never look back. But there's a little girl in there who needs me, and maybe that's enough reason to stay. Kaelin was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'm sorry. Seren looked at him. For what? For everything. For rejecting your mother. For keeping you in the dark. For not protecting you the way I should have. His voice was rough. I failed you. Failed Alara. Failed everyone who trusted me. Yeah, you did. He flinched. But Seren continued,
You're trying to fix it now, and that's more than most people do. Is it enough? I don't know. Ask me in a few years. Kylan smiled, sad and tired. Fair. They sat in silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. Finally, Seren stood. I'm going to check on Alara. She's been having nightmares. Seren, she paused. Thank you, Kylan said, for coming back, for saving her, for everything. Seren looked at him, this broken alpha who'd spent his life trying to control things he didn't understand. And she realized he wasn't that different from her, just another person trying to survive in a world that didn't make sense. You're welcome, she said, and walked away. 3 months later, Kael returned. He brought with him 2 others, a man in his 30s with fire that burned green and smelled like summer rain, and a woman barely older than Seren whose flames were so pale they looked like moonlight. Both of them were broken, traumatized, barely holding on to sanity, but they were alive, and they were free. Seren welcomed them into the pack house, into the makeshift family they were building from the ashes of Corvus's plans. Lyra taught them meditation techniques to control the fire. Kael trained them in combat, and Seren taught them that they were more than weapons, that they could choose, that they could burn or they could build, and slowly, piece by piece, they began to heal. A year after the Luna trial, Seren stood in the arena again. But this time, she wasn't fighting. She was teaching. Alara stood across from her, her small hands glowing with controlled blue flame. The child had grown in the past months, not just physically, but in confidence. She smiled more now, laughed, played with the other pack children without fear. Good, Seren said. Now try to shape it, make it into something. Alara frowned in concentration. The blue flames shifted, twisting into a crude approximation of a wolf. I did it, she squealed. You did. Now make it run. The flame wolf took a hesitant step, then another, before dissolving into sparks. Alara pouted. It's hard. Everything worth doing is hard, but you're getting better. Seren ruffled her hair. We'll try again tomorrow. As they left the arena, Alara grabbed Seren's hand. Seren? Yeah? Are you my mom now? Seren's throat tightened. What about Mira? Mira gave birth to me. But you're the one who saved me, who teaches me, who makes sure I'm okay. Alara looked up with those wide, innocent eyes. That's what moms do, right? Seren knelt down, meeting her at eye level. I'm not your mom, Alara, but I'm your family, and I'll always be here for you, no matter what. Promise? Promise. Alara threw her arms around Seren's neck, hugging her tight, and Seren hugged back, feeling something warm and unfamiliar bloom in her chest. Not fire, something gentler. Hope. That night, Seren climbed to the highest point of the pack house and looked out over the territory. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howled. The sound carried on the wind, lonely and wild and free. She thought about her mother, about Corvus, about all the pain and loss that had brought her to this moment. And she thought about the future, about Alara and Lyra and the others, learning to live with their power instead of being consumed by it. About Kaleen slowly learning to lead with compassion instead of fear. About Kael, still searching for anyone else Corvus might have touched. About herself, standing on the edge of something new and terrifying and beautiful. She'd survived. Against all odds, against every person who told her she was worthless, she'd survived. And now she was going to do more than survive. She was going to live. A voice spoke from behind her. You're thinking too loud. Seren turned. Kaelen stood there, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. Just reflecting, she said. On what? How far we've come. How far we still have to go. She looked back at the territory. I never thought I'd be here. Luna of a pack, teacher, family to a child who isn't mine. Life's funny that way. Is it? Because it feels more like torture most days. Kaelen laughed, a real sound, not bitter or broken. That too. They stood in comfortable silence. Finally, Kaelen said, I'm rebuilding the council, changing some of the old laws, making things better, less rigid. Good. I'd like you to be part of it. Officially. Seren raised an eyebrow. As what? Your Luna? As my partner.
Not in the mate bond sense, just as someone who sees things I don't, who challenges me when I'm wrong. Who makes this pack stronger? He met her eyes. If you'll stay. Seren considered it. A year ago, she would have said no. Would have run as far and fast as she could. But a year ago, she'd been a different person. Now she had people who needed her, people she needed, a purpose beyond survival. I'll stay, she said, but on my terms. I'm not playing politics. I'm not bowing to tradition. And if you try to control me, I'll burn your favorite chair. Kaelin grinned. Deal. He extended his hand. Seren took it. Not as mates, not as Alpha and Luna in the traditional sense, but as two broken people who'd decided to build something new from the ashes. Years passed. Alara grew into a strong, confident young woman, her cold fire legendary among the packs. She became a healer, using her power to mend instead of destroy, proving that Corvus's vision had been wrong. Lyra recovered, found love with one of the pack warriors, and opened a sanctuary for traumatized wolves, a place where broken things could heal. The other Ember Wolves integrated into the pack, each finding their own path, their own purpose. And Seren became the Luna she'd never wanted to be. Not through submission or tradition, but through choice. She rewrote the laws that had kept wolves like her powerless. She trained the next generation to value strength in all its forms, not just physical dominance. She turned the Virex pack into something new, something better. And on quiet nights, when the moon was full and the pack howled their unity to the sky, she'd stand at the edge of the forest and think about the girl she'd been. The servant, the wolfless one, the punching bag. And she'd smile, because that girl was gone, burned away in the fire, and in her place stood someone stronger, someone who'd taken all the pain, all the trauma, all the broken pieces, and forged them into something beautiful. Seren Vale, Luna of the Virex pack, protector of the powerless, teacher of the broken, mother to the lost, and proof that even in the darkest hell, fire could still burn bright. She raised her hand, letting golden flames dance across her palm. Not a weapon, a light. And as the flames flickered in the darkness, Seren whispered words that would have terrified the girl she'd been, but filled the woman she'd become with fierce, unbreakable joy. I am fire. I am fury. I am free. And the flames burned brighter still.